You're listening to Zack, founder of WorkingJoesRoundtable.com, and this is the Working Joes Podcast. Guys, you're listening to Working Joe's Podcast. I am Working Joe himself, the one and only Zack Talent 875. I want to talk a little bit about service call I had today. It's finally warming up. It's getting kind of hot out there. It was about 85 degrees, 86 degrees here in North Carolina. 27th of April. That's kind of warm for the 27th of April. Typically, we're in the low 70s or upper 60s still. But you know what? It's getting hot quick this year. There wasn't any winter at all. It really wasn't. We had a couple cold days. We had the snowfall. The one snowfall. One morning. It was gone by afternoon. So it was in and out really quick. But I was out there in the field today, did a couple service calls. First one was a PM and check out a dehumidifier that was causing electrical issues in the house. And I figured out what that was, and I made a little video of that one, so you'll see that on either the Working Joe's channel or Cowboys of HVAC podcast. I'm not sure where I'm going to put it because I already added a video to Working Joe's today. So what had happened on that one is that the lady kept complaining that whenever she heard the dehumidifier running, or it would buzz and stop and buzz and stop, and then the fan in her room would slow down and speed up. Like there was this huge power draw. So what I figured was there was an issue with the compressor where it was trying to start and couldn't start. And what I did was I investigated it by taking off the main panel. There was a main panel outside the house, had one breaker for the dehumidifier, it ran underneath the house. And what we had the pump, condensate pump, and dehumidifier on that breaker. There was a couple outlets there and they plugged in. So I mega ohmed everything before I went down there and it was fine. I just took the plugs off and mega ohmed I don't know what the proper term for that is. Mega ohmerized. I checkificated it to ground. How's that? So after my checkification to ground, I realized that it was not grounded. The breaker wasn't tripped anyway. I just was kind of curious about it. So I put everything back together, took the panel door off outside the electrical panel and put my meter on it. It was running 3 amps. It's a 120 volt appliance. The blower runs. Then the compressor would try to start and it would pull 35 amps. Lock rotor. So this thing's in such a tight spot I need to drag it out from under the house to even work on it. Because I can't get access. I can't take the panel off and kind of lift it off the top unless I guess I could try to wiggle it around and turn it upside down and crap, but it was just going to be a huge pain in the butt. So I told the lady, what do you want to do? Because this is the kind of lady where she has issues. She tends to get new stuff. I had set an Amana 2-stage package unit there a couple years back after we found mold in the York unit. That's on YouTube. You can look that up. I forget what the video is called. It's like York IAQ issues number 2. The first video is where I actually go out there and I find all the junk in the unit. Then I come in on the second video and I was like, well, I solved the problem. And the camera pans around and there's a new unit there. So we put a new Amana 2-stage unit in. It's been good to go ever since. I wish that was true. It's not actually true. It blew a reversing valve and I had to change out the reversing valve and it blew a capacitor. And actually Palace handled that one for me. I was busy that day and he ran up there and changed the capacitor. So it's had a couple issues in its first 2 years. Capacitor I don't even count because they're all pretty much junk nowadays. But the reversing valve, that was a hit. And I took care of it for her because it was within 2 years. Even though she only had a 1-year labor warranty, I went ahead and took care of it because I thought it was just kind of insulting to have her have to take care of that stuff. So I continued to do her work, and now her dehumidifier is potentially on death's door. It could be a run capacitor. I can't remember how those machines are set up, but I'm sure that the compressor has a little run capacitor. So, well, I'm going to let her decide. She's always wanted the kind with an interface you can read inside. I know April Air makes one of those. And she, as soon as I told her about it, she was like, well, maybe I'll get a different one. It's 10 years old. It's R22 dehumidifier. She kind of liked the idea of getting a new one. And, that's fine with me. I told her she could buy one and I'd put it in. I don't mind. She can have exactly what she wants. We'll see what the prices are from the supply house, or maybe I might supply it for her. I'm not sure yet. But that was the first service call. I PM'd the 2 units out there, and they were fine. And then I went on to another call in a little town called Burgal. It wasn't in the town limits. It was on the outskirts, which was just It's basically the BFE. It's in the middle of nowhere. So I drove on up there, and I had my truck, and I drove on the gravel driveway. Came to see the house from the road. It's tucked away. There's some horse barns back there. This is the kind of guy who's got like 13 dogs, 15 cats, 12 horses. You know, he's basically one step away from having an ark assembled in his side yard. And I'd been to his house about 3 years back, 2 or 3 years back, to replace a hard start kit. And this comes into play because I was listening to Brian Orr's podcast, and they were talking about start kits with the guy. And I guess it's Rector Seal with the kickstart. He was talking about kickstarts and how they're a little bit different than the other 3-wire hard start kits. And they were making their case for kickstarts being better from the way they were wired, and I guess from the back EMF of the motor. It's a little bit different than having a 3-wire where you need several different potential relays to sort of assume you need several different ones to match the machines. So that's neither here nor there. But I did put a 3-wire in last time. It was a compressor saver 521. And I went up there this time, and the compressor was trying to start, but it couldn't start. It's a Trane package unit, reciprocating compressor. I guess it's Snowball. We would call him Snowball. Snowball 75,324. So Snowball wasn't getting going, so I checked the run capacitor, and run capacitor was fine. And what I did was I took the hard start capacitor, the actual capacitor, not the relay itself, took the start capacitor out, cut the resistor off of it, and checked it, and it was dead. There was no microfarad reading whatsoever compared to when I checked I carry a couple hard start capacitors. Just a start capacitor, sole start capacitors, not run oil-filled capacitors, but actual dedicated start capacitors. I carry them in the truck. I had one that goes up to about 160 microfarads and one that goes up to about 200 microfarads. And I needed that one because this particular unit had one that went up to about 200 because it's 3.5 ton compressor. So I took it off and I just put it on the existing relay because, like we were discussing in the past, and like when I was watching Brian's interview with the Rector Seal fella, which I hope I have that right. It'll be the wrong company. It's like, damn it, no, it's not the right company. But as they were talking about, you need all these different relays. So I was thinking about that, and I said, well, you know what, I'm going to use a relay that's here because the relay functions just fine. It's the start capacitor itself, which was bad. So I put in my start capacitor, which was it was a little bit less, maybe a hair less as far as the microfarad rating, but it was really close. And as soon as I put that in, I buttoned things up. I hit the breaker and it took right off, so it was good to go. Now I have another YouTube video, which actually I just uploaded to Working Joe's today. It's going to show what happened after I started it. Nothing major, just a dirty coil causing the head pressure to be a little bit higher than it normally would. And the back pressure was actually a little bit lower than I thought it should be, which kind of made me concerned. Like if we clean this coil, and that's what I told him. I brought him out there and I explained to him about the hard start kit. And I said, well, this coil is real dirty, so this head pressure goes up. Basically, you got heat being transferred from one location to another through the vehicle of the refrigerant. And if you block this coil, that heat transfer doesn't take place. The pressure and temperature go up in this coil. So I explained that to him. He seemed to understand. You know what? He seemed to nod at me and say, yeah. In his mind, he's like, yeah, whatever, man. How much is this? You know, that's what he's thinking. But I want to make sure I explain everything to him. So I did. I told him I needed to clean it off. He was talking about PM. I was like, well, just call me in next week, and I'll be happy to take it apart and clean it. And he said, well, maybe I'll take it apart and clean it myself. And I was like, hey, go get him, cowboy. That's just fine. It'll end up some guy, you know, breaks his own copper loose, and, you know, I'll end up having some sort of change out because he was overzealous. But I told him I'd be happy to do it if he changed his mind. So after he cleans it, I'm going to go back through there and check everything again, which to me, that's why I didn't understand why he wanted to clean it. I said, if I'm coming back to check it, I'll just let me clean it. So if I break your stuff, you know, you can blame me. But he wanted to do that. I guess he wanted to help out or save a little bit of money. So that's fine. Everybody wants to do that. So hopefully when I go back through there, when I lower that head pressure by cleaning, or when he cleans it and it lowers the head pressure, that back pressure has a potential of dropping as well. So it's a TXV system, so it won't be as pronounced as if it were a piston, a fixed metering device, because those two are directly in relation. You have a high head pressure, it's going to cause a higher back pressure because the size of the opening in the orifice doesn't change. But at TXV it does change. It's going to try to regulate the superheat. So it might be able to compensate for some of that high head. That's why you have like a normal suction pressure and a high head pressure, because the TXV is, normalizing that suction pressure. So that's sort of what I have in the back of my mind. It has the potential to drop a little bit. It was in the lower 60s. So with this house being up near 80 and it being in the lower 60s really didn't jive. It really wasn't a good correlation between the two of them. So I had to go back and make sure we don't have a loss of charge. But that is a call for another day. That's the calls I did today. I just want to run through them with you guys, sort of give you some background on when I go to the call, what's my process, what did I find out. If you have any questions, you can just email me. Just use the same email you used for the Cowboys podcast. You have a question about this podcast, it's cowboysofhvac@gmail.com. You can send it anytime. I'll read it and I'll get back to you as fast as I can. If John doesn't beat me to it, because he'll see it too. Maybe he'll have the answer for you as well. But I appreciate you watching the Working Joe's podcast and coming along with me today. It was a hot one. I sweated it off. I got a new bandana. I'm wearing bandanas now, so I look like I'm in a biker gang when I come to your house. Between the beard and the biker gang. Thank God I have glasses on. So I look like a biker librarian. So hopefully people will still trust me. If I take my glasses off, they'll probably think I'm going to, kill them and rob them or something. But thanks for listening, guys. And I'll see you on the next one. You can now download all the music you love off Working Joe's Roundtable's training videos. Go to WorkingJoe'sRoundtable.com, go to podcast, and click on Talent 875 Music to download all your favorite music.